So, our opening teller is someone who I suppose I technically don't really need to read from a sheet of paper for. But what I decided to do in this case was to try to continue learning. This is another growth opportunity, and have this person send me information about him that I might not know. And it did, in fact, include some factoids that maybe I knew I forgot. So he recently returned from circling the globe, where he collected 1,630 field recordings totaling 150 hours, during which time he visited 96 cities and slept in 134 different beds. As a boy, he once ran across a skylight on the houseboat he lived in. He fell through into the kitchen and onto a cup of coffee full of pens, and this cured him of any desire to get tattoos as a grown-up. He currently is a ghost in the machine at Blue Bear School of Music. Please welcome Tennessee John Mowrey.
From up here, but I have my first and only tattoo.
That's from pens in a coffee cup when I was about 10. Don't run on skylights, folks.
It's actually recording.
All right, cool. Well, all my jokes, guys. They didn't record my jokes. Okay. All right. So, I decided, since this is a storytelling event and I'm here to play music, that I should tell stories about the music, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I wrote all these songs while I was traveling, and I'm going to give you the context. I tried to choose songs that really had a story that led into them, so that hopefully we can all close our eyes and imagine what's happening when the song is happening. Let me take you back. Oh, watch this. That's a world map. You see it? You see that red dot?
Yeah.
Let me take you to Mongolia in the Gobi Desert in June of this year. I was in Mongolia for about a month, and I spent 2 weeks of that taking a tour with 3 other solo backpackers and a guide and a driver who spoke no English in a van, all the way out among the steppes and then down into the Gobi, staying with different nomadic families in yurts every night. Susie, you wanted me to say something about the mutton. Oh my god. The food. We had 3 meals a day, one of which was eggs and toast, and none of which had any vegetables, and 2 of which were entirely mutton. But in Mongolia, they don't let the sheep, they let them grow very large and strong so that they have the most meat. But it also means it's very tough, very gamey and very fatty. And I have distinct memories of sort of sitting around eating these fried mutton dumplings, of which you'd have like 4 for lunch and 4 for dinner. And you'd bite off the corner. They look kind of like a calzone or something like this. Bite off the corner, and then you get the ketchup. Just dumping it inside, because maybe then it wouldn't just taste like mutton. If I have mutton again in my next life, it will be too soon. But besides the mutton, we did a lot of fun things. We rode horses. We climbed these 500-foot sand dunes. We got to swim in lakes, and I played a Mongolian hearts game with some kids in a yurt one night. And on this particular day, we were at a monastery, the ruins of a monastery. This was once the 3rd largest monastery in Mongolia, which is a Buddhist country, until the communist purges in the late 30s. And the army came to the monastery, which was large. It's in a river valley with 27 small temples, about as big as this space, and then 3 larger halls of learning, and 700 students and monks living there. The army came and said, "Your religion is illegal, join the army or die." And many joined the army. A couple ran away, and 200 were slaughtered right there on the spot, and then the army systematically took apart every single bit of it, leaving only the foundational stones. And that's what we were walking around, was these foundational stones in a river valley. Oh, and they also diverted the river, so that there would be no water there for the monastery to ever spring up again. And so we were there, and we were sort of pondering this horror, and I was walking farther and farther up into the hills and looking at everything, and I found this ruins of a temple with a big rock pile in it. Rock piles are symbols of spiritual significance in Mongolia, and it had a beautiful view of the entire river valley with all of the ruins. And I sat in front of the rock pile, looking out over everything, and I closed my eyes and I began to meditate, and this is what happened. And the howling wind bow snatched my soul where the desert folk won't go. cut my feet running away where a river used to flow, but it don't no more. There's nowhere to be found, but it don't no more. Swallowed by the ground. When I was chasing rainbow tumbleweeds across Mongolian sand, sat in meditation where the temple used to stand, but it don't no more. There's nowhere to be found, but it don't no more. Swallowed by the ground. A ghost appeared before me as I sat down and prayed. Asked me what was I doing here and did I plan to stay, 'cause he wanted me gone, to not come back around. Yeah, he wanted me gone, to leave his empty town. Well, I told him I was a traveler, that I just came to see, pay my respects to this lonesome place, then to turn around and leave if you wanted me gone. And I didn't want to stay. If you wanted me gone, then I didn't want to stay. Ghost really said nothing, just looked me up and down. I couldn't tell if his hooded face wore a smile or a frown, but then he was gone. He was nowhere to be found. Yeah, then he was gone, swallowed by the ground. Well, I hightailed it out of there just as fast as feet could fly. Cut my toes on the stepping stones, 'cause the riverbed was dry as the bone. Taking all the life around, dry as the bone, swallowed by the ground. Dry as the bone, swallowed by the ground.
So we have one more fine thing for you before we take a little break, and we're going to bring back up Tennessee Mowrey. So please welcome him to the stage.
All right, thanks, y'all. I have 3 naps for 3 songs.
I prepared. Can you see the red dot?
Yes.
All right. Can you read it? It says Avignon, France. This is in February. So while I was traveling, for part of the time I was also going through a breakup. And that was difficult for me because I didn't have a lot of stability in my life in almost any way, right? I was staying 3 nights in a city and moving, and I didn't have anyone to talk to because the time difference was so wild, and then all of a sudden this source of stability was also gone, and it wasn't great for my mental state, and it was also the middle of winter and the days were short, and like I was places that I didn't speak the language. I don't know, I was in a funky place. And I was in Avignon in France, and it was like February 26th or something, very end of February, dead low of the dead low season. The Winter Olympics were on. The season was so low that the hostel that I had booked upgraded me from a 4-bed room to a private suite. Very nice. Except then I didn't meet anyone throughout the course of my time in the hostel, because no one was watching the Olympics, no one was even really staying there. The hostel owner didn't speak English really, just enough to get me into the hostel. No one in town spoke any English really, and I spoke enough French to order a sandwich. And so I didn't have a conversation for 3 days. And on the 3rd day, I was going a little bit crazy, and I was like, I need to go to Arles. Arles is nearby. Have you guys heard of Arles, the town of Arles?
Yes.
Van Gogh was there, right? Yeah, so Van Gogh was in Arles, and he, at least in my thinking, he cleared his head in Arles, and I was like, oh, I could get my head in Arles. This will be so easy, you know, you just follow the footsteps of giants, right? And so I head to Arles, good little backpacker with my little backpack and my little lunch, and I'm on the train, and I get off, and I'm walking through town, and I'm like really confused, because then none of the lights are on in any of the stores, and I walk up to the doors, and there's these signs on the doors, and I can't understand French, but there's enough cognates that I can kind of get the picture, and basically what they say is, we're going to be back in March. It's the dead low of the dead low season. No one's here. Why are you here? They didn't say that. I was saying that to myself. And there I am, and it's raining. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it's raining. Not quite hard yet, but it's raining, and there's no, like, awnings or anything in town, and I have this lunch with me, and I need to eat it, because I'm hungry. I haven't eaten yet today, and it's like 1:30, and I don't want to eat a soggy sandwich that I need to put together in the rain, you know? So, oh my God, there's the Coliseum over there. That's got arches. Arches must protect me from the rain, so I walk to the Coliseum. And I get my day pass. I can get into the Coliseum. I can get into the museum. I can get into the ruins of Constantine's bathhouse, and I'm in the Coliseum, and I sit down on the way into the Coliseum underneath all the seats, and I lay out my handkerchief, and I take my stuff out of my bag, and I really need to eat it today because it's going to go bad tomorrow, so I'm laying out all my stuff, and these tourists are walking by, even though it's the dead low of the dead low season. They're giving me all these funny looks. Because there I am, like on the dusty ground with my handkerchief and my sandwich stuff, trying desperately not to get it all dusty and gross. And I eat my food. I'm sated. I get out, I go to the museum, it's fine. I look at my phone as I'm leaving the museum, I realize I have about 45 minutes until my train, and the ruins of Constantine's bathhouse are directly on the way to the train station. I'm like, oh great, I'll just stop there for 20 minutes because I can get in there for free, why not? And at this point, it's pouring. But I have a rain jacket. I'm a good backpacker, you know? And so I'm there, and no one else is there because it's ruins, and there's no roof. And it's pouring on me. It's just pouring and pouring and pouring, and I'm checking it out, and no one else is there. And then I look up, and there's this huge dome where it would be a huge dome if half of it hadn't fallen down. So it's this huge half dome. And I'm looking up at it, and the rain is just pouring on my face. And all of a sudden, I realize that I'm crying. And I don't quite know how long I've been crying, or exactly what I'm crying about, but I know that I'm crying, and I just let it happen. And the rain is on my face, and it's so cathartic. It feels so good. Finally, that moment is over, and I snap out of it, and I look at my phone, and I realize I missed the train. And it's still pouring, and so I walk back to the train station to just wait it out until my next train, whenever it's going to be like 3 hours later. And to the beat of my own footsteps, I wrote the first verse of this song. It's called Back to Avignon. Maybe it's the rain, maybe it's the road, maybe it's the fact that I love someone, don't love me anymore. Maybe it's the heartbreak, maybe it's the way she been leading me on. But I broke down in Arles, missed my train back to Avignon. Everything's too heavy, everything's too deep. The WhatsApp at 5 a.m. I can't get back to sleep. Thought I'd take a day trip, take my mind off the things that went wrong. But I broke down in Arles, missed my train back to Avignon. My mind is spinning like a clock. My other ex reached out to talk, and she was crazy, but she'd be my rock. I need a rock, 'cause I've been moving fast. I slept in 60 beds. It's only been 5 months, I got a mind to do it all again. Some days it catches up to me, snatches all my light like eclipse in the dawn. Make me break down in Arles, miss my train back to Avignon. So maybe it's the rain, maybe it's the road, maybe it's the fact that I love someone, don't love me anymore. Maybe it's the heartbreak, Maybe it's the way you've been treating me wrong, but I broke down in Arles, missed my train back to Avignon. Yeah, I broke down in Arles, missed my train back to Avignon. Said I broke down in Arles, missed my train back to Avignon.
So that concludes the first half of our...
Thank you, DJ. You guys want some more Tennessee? Yeah! And Tim, you have a gig coming up this
On Saturday.
weekend. Yeah, you want
Yeah, I'll just talk a little bit.
to? Okay.
Cool. So, as Susie mentioned, I have a gig coming up this weekend on Saturday at an event called Show and Tell, which is a performance arts salon that's happening in North Berkeley. I'm going to be doing about 10 minutes of work. It's combining the soundscaping that I was doing with those sounds that my dad mentioned at the very beginning of things, the 1600 sounds with the 150 hours. I'm combining some of the soundscaping of that with some songs that I was writing along the way to give the audience an idea of the internal and the external simultaneously. And it's pretty nerve-wracking for me because this is a big project I've been thinking about for a long time, and this is like the first time that I will have shown anything from it. And speaking of, tonight is actually the first night that any of these songs that I'm playing for you have ever been played for an audience. Thank you all for your receptivity to them. Makes me feel really good. And I got one more for you. Hold on while I get my stool here.
And the map.
Oh, this one has 2 maps. Can I say? So, there's 2 of them, right?
Yeah.
This song was partially written in Philadelphia. No, the ideas for this song partially came out of Philadelphia. They partially came in Vienna, and they also partially came in Bordeaux in France about a year. But I didn't remember that until I was here.
So where did we leave off? We were in Avignon, right? We were in Avignon. Part of the reason that I was in Avignon was because it was the refuge of the popes in the 13th century when they had been forced out of Rome. And there were all these beautiful churches and incredible cathedral bells. Sometimes there would be 7 or 8 churches going at once, and it would be this beautiful cacophony from the center of town. And I wanted to go there for those church things because I had been praying a lot. It was just very strange for me to say. I was raised Catholic until my first communion, but I've been a Christmas and Easter Catholic since then. And very, very much skeptical of many forms of religion. And so to say that I was praying, 3 times a week for 3 months is not something I expected when I left. Let's just say that. And that has to do with 3 different things. One starts in Philadelphia, as I was mentioning. Philadelphia in November. I was there visiting my cousin at her university, and she had class that day or something. So she couldn't hang out, and I was out in the green, playing my guitar, writing in my journal, and this group of 4 people come up to me, 18-year-old kids, and say, "We like your energy, you're playing your guitar, can we listen?" Of course, yeah, that's fine. We start talking, I explain to them what I'm doing, and they explain to me what they're doing, and eventually, about 40 minutes later, they ask if they can pray for me. And I say, yes, of course, but I have this little smirk on my face, because aside from that, I actually can't remember the last time someone prayed for me, and I'm not sure how much weight I put in that stuff, right? And so I got this little smirk on my face, but they do. They pray for me, they reflect back to me all these things that I was saying about what I wanted to do with this trip and what I was looking for, and to be safe and to be good and to make the most of what I needed from it and to ask for help from a higher power in doing that. Heavenly Father, they said, please, help him with this. And I felt so good. It made me feel so good. I've been listened to and heard and asked for help, and I was just warm and fuzzy for days. The second part of this, there are 3 little parts of this. The second part of this is in Bordeaux, in France. And I was in a hostel there, and I was speaking to a man around the table for a number of hours, and he spoke 4 languages. He spoke English and Arabic and French and Spanish in order to read the holy books in all of those different languages. That was the first time that I'd ever seen the Holy Bible in Arabic. It was not the Quran. It was the Holy Bible. You flipped all the way to the end, the beginning in Arabic, and right there it said, "In the beginning." I traced my fingers over the words that I couldn't read. He was kind of strange, though. He would only speak to me in French, even though he spoke English as a native language. He was from Cincinnati. Je déteste anglais. He wouldn't speak it at all. And the third story is in Barcelona in January or February. Barcelona in February. And I was in the Sagrada Familia. Has anyone here ever been to Barcelona before?
Sure. Yeah.
Were you in the Sagrada Familia at all? Yeah. That is an unfinished church. It's been under construction for more than 100 years. And when I was in there, I looked up, and it was like being inside of a copse of petrified trees or the ribcage of a dragon or something like this. And I was so overcome by the architecture that I felt compelled to drop to my knees and pray. And again, it felt really good. And I kept doing it because it felt really good, and I got into this pattern. And eventually my prayer that I was making coagulated and became this sort of one form. And on the train ride to Vienna in mid-March, I wrote it all down in verse, and that became 95% of the lyrics of this song. This is called Poison in Paradise. Heavenly Father, hold me and take me in both of your hands. Won't you bend me and break me? Cast me unformed into the flame. And make me whole again. Well, I went out walking when I was still blind. Searched through the seasons for a rose upon a vine. Tracing a circle, walking a line. For things that I can't find. Give me poison in paradise. Give me poison in paradise. I laughed when they prayed for me. Now I'm on my knees. Who am I talking to? The universe or me? Or some white man on a throne? Am I shouting to the void to not feel all alone? Give me poison in paradise. Give me poison in paradise. Burn me down